Hi, I'm Micah. It is December 1st. I have no blankets or pillows on my bed, so it looks pretty sad back there. And today I'm going to be doing my November reading wrap-up and my December reading goals. And we're also going to be looking at my storygraph. I have my graphs right here, which I'm really excited about. So let's get into it. I read 5 books this month. 3 of them are right here, and then 2 of them were digital. 5 books is like a lot for me to read in 1 month, so I'm really proud of myself for doing that. So let's talk about them. The first book that I finished this month was Dracula, and that's because I was reading Dracula Daily, which was so much fun. I have my review right here, which I can read to you. I rated it 5 stars. And I said, Dracula Daily was such a fun experience, OMG. Reading along each day and then logging into Tumblr to see what people were saying made me appreciate the book so much and feel like part of a community. It was like a book club. The experience made me want to do more group reading things and possibly join a book club. The book itself was also great, and I loved all the characters and felt so worried for them. I loved that I got so attached to them that I wished it didn't have to be a horror novel where scary and bad things would happen to them. And I stand by all of those statements. I also added some content warnings. Xenophobia, racism, and violence. So look out for that. Those are all I rated all of those moderate in the book, but other people rated those differently. So that was my digital reading this month, and because I got it through email. So that was really fun. I'm very proud of myself for reading Dracula. I had never read it before, and I think that the format of receiving like a chunk of it every day through email made it like easier to get through, and it made it really exciting. And it was just super fun to like see the memes that people made and read something serialized for a change instead of binging a book. So that's the first book that I read. The second book that I finished this month was, I have it right here. It was Nona the Ninth. I've been looking forward to this for so long. This actually came out on my 20th birthday, so that was really fun. I got it for my birthday and I finished it this month because I was reading other things. I don't have to explain myself, but it was Nona the Ninth by Tamsin Moore. I don't know how to say it. But this is the 3rd book in the Locked Tomb series, and the 4th book is coming later. There's going to be a 4th book. It started with Gideon the Ninth, and then Harrow the Ninth, and now Nona the Ninth. And this book was so good. With Tamsin Moore's books, her sequels, the first one, Harrow, I went into it not knowing if I was gonna like it because I loved Gideon the Ninth so much, and I knew that this was a completely different character, and I liked the character in Gideon the Ninth, but I didn't know how she would be as a main character, and I didn't know if I would be able to like get into it with the second person narration. But I actually ended up super loving it. And the second person narration, really, you get used to it after like just a couple pages. And it doesn't really faze you after that. It's just like a matter of sticking with it. And every time so far that I've gone into one of these sequels, I have been so confused for so long, but I've loved every second of it. And it's such a joy to keep reading. The only thing that I didn't like with this book was the like in-between chapters. So this is the first page. The titles in these in-between chapters are like Bible verses, and they talk about the first people in this world and the God of this world. It's the God like narrating it to Harrow. Spoiler alert. But it's revealed in the first thing. So those, I found it really hard to get through. I just found them kind of boring, and I don't really care about John. So that's the only thing that I didn't like about this book. Other than that, it was a joy. And I believe that I gave it 5 stars. I did, I gave it 5 stars. Oh yeah, I also said that the blurb on the cover is right. The blurb says, "You will love Nona and Nona loves you" by Alex E. Harrow. That is so true. You will love Nona and Nona does love you. That's a good blurb for this book. Moving on to the next book that I finished this month. This is Guns, Germs, and Steel by Jared Diamond. I actually listened to an abridged audiobook for this book. I've read some of the chapters fully because this is actually my textbook for my History of World Civilizations class. And we're coming up on that final, I was coming up on my midterm, and I was like, I should probably read this because I was not keeping up with the readings. So I read listened to an abridged audiobook recording. It was about 6 hours, which is very much was cut out from that. But I felt like I got a good idea of the main points, and I think that when I'm coming up on my final, I'll understand the concepts. So if this is your textbook for a history class and you need to binge it fast and understand it well for a test or a paper, then I recommend the abridged audiobook. It was read by Grover Gardner. So there's not much to say here. I'm proud of myself for reading it, and I feel like one day I'll actually sit down and like read this whole thing because it is interesting. Just something about the way that Diamond writes makes me feel like he's kind of full of himself. I don't know if that's like mean or if I'm like projecting onto him, but I'm just not really a fan of this guy for some reason. Just weird vibes from him. So that's my thoughts on this book. So the next book that I finished this month, and my last physical copy, was Shady Hollow by Juno Black. Juno Black is actually a pen name for two authors, Jocelyn Cole and Sharon Nagel, and they wrote this. It's a cozy mystery. It's a murder mystery. It's about these little animals. They're anthropomorphic animals that live in a forest together in a little village called Shady Hollow, and a murder happens. And I read this book before bed. It was my bedtime book. I love having a cozy mystery before bed. I think that it's a really good way to like get myself in the mood for sleeping, and I ended up reading a cute book. So that was what this book was for me. I wrote a review of it. I gave it 3.5 stars. It is by no means a bad book. It's a good book. Like, there was nothing wrong with it. The writing was a little bit, I would say, like a new writer. It felt like a new writer a little bit, because there was things like instead of calling the main character like Vera, because her name is Vera Vixen, they would be like, the fox did this, or like the bear did this. And when I'm reading, that's like a pet peeve of mine. I find it really hard to keep track of who's who when you're talking like that. And so I much prefer it when you just refer to the characters by name. So that's what my thoughts were on this book. I gave it a 3.5 because it was better than average. It was great for falling asleep. I recommend it for that. But yeah, it was a cute book. It was a fun time. That was Shady Hollow. And the final book that I read in November, I listened to the audiobook again, was The Love Hypothesis. Okay, I totally went into The Love Hypothesis thinking I was gonna hate it. The wait time for a hold at the library, so I use the app Libby to do audiobooks. So you borrow them from the library and you have 3 weeks to listen to them. And so the hold time for this audiobook was like 25 weeks. So I placed that hold months ago, and I only did it because I was like, I'm gonna hate this book. I love reading romances that I hate. I love complaining about a bad romance book. So I was like, this is great. I've heard like some pretty bad reviews of this book, and I'm totally gonna hate it, and it's gonna be great. And then I listened to it, and I don't know what happened, but I'm obsessed with it. I read it like I listened to it on the way to work and on the way back from work, and while I would be in the car hearing these characters fail to communicate, I would be just screaming at them. I was so invested. I was so invested in this book, and I really loved it. And I felt like the romance, I would go, OMG, this romance is so good. I would like squeal, I'd be like, ah, in my car. So it was a really good book. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. It is just Raylo fanfiction with the names changed. The man is even named Adam, like Adam Driver. And I saw some people saying that Olive was kind of like not like other girls. I did not get that vibe at all. Like in the reviews, people were saying that. I did not see that at all. I think that it's honestly kind of sexist to say that because like, I think that people just attribute that characteristic to any girl who's like any girl character who like wears a messy bun, when like the I'm not like other girls thing is about like tearing down other women, and Olive absolutely does not do that. She's in like women in STEM groups, and she has like a best friend who's a girl, and they like support each other all the time. So I do not see that reading at all. I think that Olive was great. She did what she had to do. I don't know. She was a good character, and I thought that she and Adam were really cute. So I'm a Love Hypothesis stan. Sue me. I get the hype. It was really good. So those were the 5 books that I read in November. And now let's talk about my graphs. So I have selected 3 of the graphs for us that I care the most about. So let me pull them up on my little iPad here. So the first graph that I'm going to talk about is my moods graph. And this is describing the different moods that your books feature. So in this graph, we have 6 different moods. And they include mysterious and adventurous, which are my 2 most commonly read moods. Then we have lighthearted and dark, which are my 2nd most commonly read moods. And then tense and funny, which are my 3rd most commonly read moods. I think it's really annoying that in the moods, there's no informative mood, because this book was informative. This was literally my textbook for class, and I don't get an informative or like challenging mood in my graph. I deserve one of those. Now next, we're going to talk about genres. They have a little bar graph here, which I love. I just love all of these graphs. So my most read genre this month was fantasy. I read 2 fantasy books, which I'm assuming were Nona the Ninth and Dracula. I think it's funny to call Dracula a fantasy, but it is vampires. All of my other genres are equally read this month, and they include classics, which is Dracula, LGBTQIA+, which was Nona the Ninth, science fiction, which is also Nona the Ninth, science, which I believe is Guns, Germs, and Steel. I don't really consider it a science book, but I guess they talk about like carbon dating sometimes. Romance, which was The Love Hypothesis. Mystery, which was Shady Hollow. Horror, Dracula. History, which is Guns, Germs, and Steel. And then contemporary, which was also The Love Hypothesis. So those are my genres. And the final graph that I want to talk about is my pages and minutes in November of 2022. So on this graph, we can see that I didn't read very much each day, but I think on like average, my reading, like my page number for the whole like month per day was like 30.5 pages, so that's not bad. And I had 2 like big bumps for audiobook listening in this month. One was on, what is that, the 15th, and then the other was on the 20th. So the one on the 15th, I don't know what I was doing that day. What was I think that I was just listening to it like at my house. So that explains that one. And then the one on the 20th was when I was on a road trip. So I was listening to that in the car. So those are my graphs. I keep laughing at myself. Okay, let's talk about my December reading. So this is my pile of December books. I have 3 physical books that I'm planning to read in December, and I have 3 audiobooks that I'm planning to read. I don't know if I'll get to all of them. I'm really hoping that I can because I think they're gonna be a lot of fun. So let's talk about the audiobooks first. So the first book that I've already started reading this month is called Lady Sophie's Christmas Wish. And it's from the Wyndham series, number 4. I haven't read any of the other series. This is the book that I'm starting with because it has Christmas in the title and it's December, but it's a like historical romance. It's written by Grace Burrows. I'm listening to the audiobook narrated by James Langston. To give you a rundown, I'm like 2 hours into the audiobook, and Lady Sophie Wyndham was in an inn, I think, and some lady came up to her and just handed her a baby named Kit, and she didn't know how to take care of it. And so she meets this guy called Vin. I don't remember what his last name is. Vin knows how to take care of babies because he's had like a lot of experience with his siblings growing up, but Sophie has no experience in child rearing. So she's like freaking out, and the baby has been abandoned. The mom's not coming back. So they go to her house and they get snowed in. Like there's a blizzard happening and Vin needs to like leave, but he can't because of the snow, and also he doesn't want to because he likes Sophie, and Sophie asked him to stay because she needs help taking care of the baby. And I'm assuming that it gets very spicy in this book because the cover is a lot to take in. I like can't open my phone with this in public. I'm excited about it. I love a little bad historical romance, and so far it's not even bad. It's actually pretty good. The only thing, there's like a really weird part with the baby within the first like 20 minutes of this book. I don't know why they included it. I looked it up and it is a normal thing for babies to do. If you've read this book, you probably know what I'm talking about. It took a lot for me to keep reading after that because I was like, why did you include this? But so far it's pretty good. Next audiobook for December is going to be one called A Bite for Christmas. And now I don't know like anything about these books. I literally just typed in Christmas into the Libby app, and this is what came up, and I was like, that looks fun. So that's why I chose it. So it's called The Bite Before Christmas. It is by Janine Frost, and it's read by Lindsay Sands. I don't know if that's the version that I'm going to be reading, but it's the version that's here on Storygraph. I think that they just get stuck in a cabin together, like a man and a woman get stuck in a cabin together, and there's a vampire apocalypse. I really don't know. But I am so surprised because I actually found 2 Christmas vampire books, and that's the second one that I'm going to be reading. It's also a Christmas vampire book. And I had no idea that this was a genre that people read, like Christmas vampire books. It makes sense that in your vampire romance ongoing series you would have a Christmas special, but I had never thought about it, and so I'm just so excited to like enter into this world. So the next one is called All I Want for Christmas is a Vampire. It's by Carolyn Sparks, and it's number 5 in her Love It Steak series. So here's the description. Tony Davis's Christmas wish: 1, springing my best friend from the psych ward. 2, living somewhere that doesn't have coffins in the basement, occupied coffins. 3, finding Mr. Right. Please make him tall, dark, handsome, and alive. So she wants a boyfriend for Christmas, and it seems like it's going to be a vampire. I'm excited. I really hope that I get to these before Christmas, because if I don't, that'll be really disappointing. I've been trying to discipline myself, and every time I'm in the car, I am reading Lady Sophie's Christmas Wish. So I'm hoping to get through them. Those are the audiobooks that I'm planning on. Next, I'm going to talk about these physical books that I have. So the first one, this is a cozy mystery. It is called Probable Clause by Rita Mae Brown and Sneaky Pie Brown. That's her cat. I love that. I am so excited about this. I've already read a fair amount for December. I read 72 pages, and In this book, they're in the Blue Ridge Mountain community of Crozet in Virginia. And this girl, Harry, loses her friend, architect Gary Gardner. Sorry, I'm so bad at like reading for a camera. So he's shot to death in broad daylight by a masked motorcyclist, and she is trying to figure out who killed him. And that's this book. And it's in the wintry time, so I thought it was really perfect for reading in December. And this is gonna be my bedtime book. I've already been reading it before bedtime. I've only been reading like 8 pages a night, so I don't know if I'm gonna finish it in December. I hope that I do, but it's, should I calculate it? 378 minus 72 is 306, and then 306 divided by 31, 9.87. So I probably will finish this by the end of December because I've been reading about 8 to 10 pages every night. So that's exciting. Oh my gosh, I probably am gonna finish it. So that's this book. The next book that I am planning to read this month is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. So according to my dad, this was one of the like first NaNoWriMo books to like be published and to get really mainstream. NaNoWriMo is National Novel Writing Month, and it's November. So I'm reading it like right after Erin Morgenstern would have written it. So that's exciting. I don't know if that's exciting for you. But yeah, this book is about, it seems to be about this girl who has magic. And she's like taken under the wing of this guy who is a magician, and he is not nice. He's abusive. And he makes a bet with his friend to see if they can like create mages that will beat each other. So the friend, or like frenemy, goes to a orphanage and adopts a child who also has magic, and he's abusive to that child. And so I just got to the part, I'm this much in, I just got to the part where they're like adults now. So they like just reached adulthood. So I'm excited to see what's gonna happen. I feel like they might have a romance or something. I guess I'll update you at the end of the month when I finish this book. So I'm really excited about this. I've heard some really good reviews, and I need to finish it fast because my dad is also gonna borrow it. So my next book, this book I'm actually gonna be making a video about. I'm really excited for it. So I got this book in a blind date with a book thing at Barnes & Noble. I've never done that before. I did it for a video. So I'm gonna be reading this, Magic for Liars, and I'm gonna be like analyzing it. I am 42 pages in. So far, it is phenomenal. I am so happy with it. I'm just so excited to see where it goes. I really hope that I'm able to finish all of these this month. It's gonna be so embarrassing if I come back here January 1st and I'm like, I read 2 books this month. But I have high hopes because I read 5 books last month and I believe in myself. So that's my December reading, and that was my November reading wrap up. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you next time. Bye.